Here we go, guys. Going to do a quick little knife review for you. This is the CRKT Ignitor in both the serrated and the plain edge. I wanted to show you guys this knife. I've been carrying this one around a little bit, for a little while now, and really dig the system for the assisted opening with this knife. Wanted to show you guys some of the neat things about it. Wanted to also show you guys some other options, some competitive options. As well as kind of talk to you about some of the downsides. This knife definitely has a few downsides. So let's get right into it. For those of you that are curious, this information is on the website, but the blade length is 3.38 inches long, so it's a good long blade. I'll show you guys here in a minute a Benchmade assisted opening that I carry around a lot too, and I really like the extra reach that this blade gives. And man, it comes out fast with their outburst assisted opening technology for such a long blade. So getting right into it, just kind of want to come around and show you the knife first. So the CRKT Ignitor is a G10 handled knife. The G10 is textured, some of these little lines cut in it, mainly for decoration, but it probably offers medium traction. Definitely enough for you to be able to EDC this knife without running into any issues. On the back side of this G10 handle, what you'll find is the pocket clip. Now, the pocket clip is one position only. You lefties out there are not going to be able to reverse this pocket clip, and if you're like me and you prefer to carry your knife tip up, there's nothing you can do about that either. There's nothing on that end to be able to do that. So, couple downsides. I really wish they wouldn't do that. CRKT has a habit of doing that on a bunch of their knives, not allowing you the ability to carry tip up. But hey, relatively inexpensive knife. I think this one cost me 49 bucks as far as assisted opening knives go, at least. So definitely great handle construction. Weighs in at about 3.5 ounces. Let me see what the website says. Yeah, exactly, 3.5 ounces, so nice and lightweight. Has a good, strong liner lock, so you can see there that the locking mechanism with this knife is the liner lock. So going around the knife, one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is about the outburst technology. Basically, the way it works is on the inside of the liner lock, I'll use this one to show you, there's a little pin, and that pin, you can see it briefly right here, this little hole on the back of the blade. Okay, that pin locks into that hole. Now with the liner lock pressed against the blade cannot come out because that pin is depressed in there. Well, when you press on the thumb stud like you would normally press to open the knife, it moves the liner lock over a tad. You guys see that? And what it does is when you move the liner lock over, it removes that pin from the tab, pulls it out, and now you can open the knife. It's a great technology because you don't have an external lock somewhere that you can engage. It is locked, but when you open it like you normally would, the knife just comes flying out and that pin gets moved out of the way. Now, you don't have to press it down at all any more than you normally would to open a knife. It just kind of works like that. So that's a great thing about the blade. The blade steel on this particular knife is, well, let me grab the website here. This is 8CR14 MOV, that's right. So decent steel, not the best out there, but it definitely will do a great job for your EDC. You can see that long, thin blade has a little bit of a belly here. This is a hollow ground blade. I have not had to resharpen it yet, so I can't speak to how easy it is to resharpen. You can adjust, just like any other knife, the blade centering and how fast it deploys with your torque screws right here, and I wanted to show you guys that while I'm in here. The blade centering on this knife is perfect, and it's not just this knife, it's that one too. All my experiences with them, they just kind of show up like that. So let's go ahead and take a look at the other version, the serrations, talk a little bit about that. Now, I'm not a huge fan of serrations on knives. I don't actually own any other knives with serrations that I use for EDC purposes. However, CRKT has these patented Veff serrations, and if you take a look, see if I can get it to focus. There you go. They swoop forward and they're long, and there's a lot more cutting surface within each one. You know, like I said, although I'm not a huge fan of serrations on knives, these particular serrations I dig. They do a great job of some hard cutting tasks. Mowing down lots of cardboard at work and things like that doesn't seem to be a problem at all. So there you go. You know, this one's actually mine. The plain edge is on loan, and I like it. You know, I like having the serrated option, at least for an EDC carry. Now, same thing with this one. I wanted to show you that blade centering, as well as that outburst technology. You can see it moving the liner lock over just a little bit when I depress it, and it just comes flying out of there. This is a great knife with regard to lockup as well. I wanted to show you guys that. Now, I actually really like liner locks. You know, I know that there's some debate out there as to the strength of a liner lock, but you know what? For me, the liner lock does a good enough job for EDC purposes, and that's what this knife is really designed for. No up and down wiggle, no side to side wiggle. You really cannot get a tighter lockup than this on a regular EDC style knife. Now, I will say this, there are some better locking systems out there. We'll get into some of that when I show you some other options, but as far as the lockup on this thing goes, it's 100%. It's a great job. So here's your CRKT, all right? Okay, I wanted to show you guys some competitive options out there and talk to you a little bit about some other assisted opening knives you can purchase, and you know, some price differences and what you get for your money. Now, before I move on, there was one thing I wanted to talk to you guys about, and that is the pocket clip. I mentioned that it was not reversible or switched for lefties, but it also does not have any sort of sanding done in the G10 handles underneath where the contact point is between the belt clip and the handle. And what I've noticed is it's starting to chew up my pants a little bit after carrying it. Just something to keep in mind when you're taking it in and out. Or you can take the pocket clip off and sand a little bit down yourself right there. That's probably what I'll end up doing. But there you go, just something else to keep in mind. You know, one of the reasons that I wanted to talk to you guys about this knife in particular is because I really feel like for the money it's an outstanding knife. You know, there are some other options out there. The first one I wanted to talk to you guys about within my collection is the Kershaw Blur. I haven't done a review solely on this knife yet, but one of the things I wanted to talk to you about were some of the differences between the Blur and the Ignitor. So you can get a Kershaw Blur for about 60 bucks. A little bit more, a little bit less, depending on which one you get. This Tiger Stripe, you know, limited edition type version that's from Cabela's was a little bit more expensive than that. I believe I got it for about 90. But it has some things about it that CRKT does not have, and that's what we want to talk about. One of the first things I want to point out to you guys is the pocket clip is reversible. It is not reversible for left-handies, but it is reversible from tip up to tip down, and I actually moved it from this one to this one so that I can carry tip up. Another thing I wanted to talk to you guys about is about the handle design. So on this particular knife, the Kershaw Blur, it has a flow-through design. If you see, there's nothing all the way through, and that allows for easier cleaning and maintaining and keeping stuff out of the inside of your knife. One thing that I would like to point out to you is this one is also a liner lock. The blade steel on the Kershaw Blur is a 14C28N. It's a Sandvik 14C28N, and I've actually have a couple other knives with this particular steel, and I like it. I actually prefer it over the CR14 MOV, but both good steels. One doesn't just ridiculously outshine the other. Has a protective coating over the blade. I'm not going to do a review of the knife right now. I just want to kind of show you some other options out there. So you can get a version of this knife for about 60 bucks, whereas this one's 50. Blade length is about the same. Texture handles I prefer on the Blur a little bit more. I like that you can adjust it. And also, Kershaw did make the portion underneath the pocket clip smooth. It's just like this part right here, so that it won't tear up your pants. So that's something to consider. Deployment speed, you know, if you're buying an assisted opening knife, that's something that you're interested in. Let's see if I can't show you guys here without hitting the tripod. Here's the deployment speed on the igniter. Extremely fast. Kershaw blur, just as fast. I actually like the opening on the Kershaw blur just a tiny little bit better. Seems a little bit more smooth and doesn't slap as hard when it opens up. But they both have extremely fast deployment speeds. So there you go. There's a competitive option for you. Something else you could look at if you're looking at assisted opening knife. The blur is a little bit thinner as well. Not by much, but just by a smidge. Maybe that has to do with how far the pocket clip comes out on that one. But there you go. There's a blur. Another one I wanted to show you guys is a Benchmade. This is the Benchmade Mini Barrage. Deployment speed on this one, just as fast as the other two. You know, these are all really great assisted opening knives. I would recommend any one of these to someone. Now, I'm going to move Mr. Blur over here for a minute so that you guys can take a look at these side by side. Now, whole different set of things with this one. You know, the Kershaw Blur and the Ignitor have a lot in common with regards to textured handles, blade length, liner locks, things of that nature. This knife is totally different. The blade length is 2.9 inches, so it's a lot smaller than the Ignitor. The handle is about the same length, however. See that? Handle's a little bit smaller, but not by much. The locking mechanism on the Benchmade Mini Barrage is their axis lock. When the knife comes out, this open part right here wedges on the back of this axis bar that if you watch is going to go down and go back up. And that was a slow deployment just because I was trying to show you guys, but extremely fast deployment on this knife. Another thing that's a big difference between this one and the Ignitor is that the handle is not textured at all. This is really just for design. There's not really much grip to the Benchmade Mini Barrage or the Barrage. However, it is tip up carry only, but it is reversible from right to left. So that's something to consider. Another thing is the blade steel, 154 cm. This is my favorite of the 3 blade steels that we've been looking at. It's a little bit nicer blade steel. I think the lockup on an axis lock is better than any liner lock out there. It's just a great system and I love it. So the Benchmade Mini Barrage is a little bit even more expensive. You know, just wanted to show you guys some options that you can get out there for assisted opening knives. These are all really great knives. They're all really good quality. If I had to recommend any one of these to you guys for your first assisted opening knife purchase, it would be the Kershaw Blur. One thing that I like about the Kershaw Blur is that there's no locking mechanism whatsoever. Excuse me, not locking. Like blade locking so that the blade can't come out. You know, an assisted opening knife, the blade retention is outstanding. It is on all of these. The need for a lock to keep it in the closed position is just unnecessary. And in my opinion, the need to keep a lock open is unnecessary too. One other thing I want to mention to you guys, the Ignitor and the Barrage both have no jimping whatsoever. So, might be something to consider when you're thinking about the Barrage, that not only is the handle texture not a grippy surface, but it also does not have jimping. Now, this knife wasn't designed to be a tactical knife, you know, so that wasn't its intention. The Blur does have a little bit of jimping right here, not much. But I'd recommend the Blur first. You know, it's lightning fast, a nice wide blade, good length on the blade for me. It could flex into the tactical role because of the grippy surface of the handle. Lockup's outstanding. I like that you can reverse the clip for tip up and tip down. The ramped thumb studs are great. Now, if a lock on the blade is important to you, the Barrage does have one. It's right here. You can lock it in the closed position, or you can open it and lock it in the up position and it won't close. So that's something, if you're interested in the lock for the blade, that's something that only this one has. Now, while the CRKT has their thumb stud that you depress, it's not a dedicated lock. It is part of the thumb stud, and when you actuate the knife, it will open no matter what. So just something to keep in mind. So here's some competitive options for you. Let's get Mr. Barrage and Mr. Blur out of here. So, you know, for the money, this is an outstanding assisted opening knife. I love how fast it deploys. I love the thumb stud, how it has the ability to unlock the blade just by the normal depression of the thumb stud. A couple downsides definitely are, you know, the pocket clip, not being able to move it around at all and being forced into tip down carry. Also, how it wears your pants is not that wonderful either. So some good upsides, some good downsides, but definitely check this knife out if you're on a little bit of a budget but looking for an assisted opening knife. It's a great one. Thanks a lot.